right, live pictures from both Washington and Ottawa, where it's just past 1:30 in the afternoon local time. Prime Minister Mark Carney will be in Washington, D.C. for a publicity event tomorrow tied to the upcoming World Cup, which, of course, Mexico, the U.S., Canada are all hosting next summer. But Mark Carney will also have some meetings while he's in Washington, D.C., including with Donald Trump. We're not sure whether this will be a meet and greet, sort of a courtesy meeting, or whether there will be anything of substance of that meeting. We'll see. It comes as hearings are underway by key stakeholders involving the renegotiation of the existing free trade agreement that we have. It's a very convoluted story here about what may or may not happen. Donald Trump seems to be indicating that he might decide to pull the U.S. out of the free trade agreement, but even that comment could be part of a negotiating tactic. Jeffrey Bloodworth is my guest. He's a political analyst with Gannon University. Good to have you back with us here, Jeffrey. Thanks for taking the time.
Great to be here.
All right, so your take on what's happening. There are public hearings going on. This is a way to talk to different stakeholders. There are some key Canadians who are there in Washington to sort of explain why this free trade agreement is so crucial for Canada and for the United States. But now we're hearing that maybe Trump might decide to pull out of this agreement altogether. Can I get your sense? Can you cut through some of the noise, what you think might be going on here?
I think this is a negotiating tactic. I mean, the Supreme Court is going to rule kind of at any day about the president's power to unilaterally, just by the executive, pulling out of free trade agreements. And so this is, I think, typical Trump bluster. And I believe most observers believe that the Supreme Court is about to hamstring the ability of the president to even do such an act, even if he wanted to.
Yeah, so the question that I've got for you is, you know, the power that the president may or may not have here, and what it means for the future of this trade agreement, because, you know, there are all sorts of experts and analysts and commentary and all sorts of stuff about this. But ultimately, at this point anyway, it seems like it often comes down to whatever Donald Trump wants. But you're saying the U.S. Supreme Court could take away that power from him based on what it rules coming up.
Most certainly. Does the president have the unilateral authority to pull the United States out of trade deals? I mean, that's an open question that when there were hearings in the court that many Supreme Court justices who lean to the right were quite dubious about. You know, it hasn't been established whether the president has that power, much less, I mean, not all free trade agreements are going to ratified by congressional treaty. And the Constitution does not give the president the power to unilaterally pull the United States out of treaties, which is what the trade deal with Canada and Mexico is. So I would categorize the latest, you know, Trump kind of utterance about this as kind of a political stunt. You know, I think it's nothing less than that.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen the president time and again pushing the envelope, Jeffrey, on, you know, just how far he can actually go in terms of executive power, really pushing into new territory, places that other presidents have never gone before. And then it's sometimes up to the courts to kind of rein him in. There's also this conversation happening about the possibility of splitting the deal so that it would be sort of a bilateral agreement, you know, Canada and the United States, and, you know, Canada and Mexico and the United States and Mexico. In other words, getting rid of this sort of trilateral situation as well. What do you make of that?
Again, constitutionally, could it go through Congress and be made into a trilateral deal? Sure. Politically, that's not going to happen. I mean, you have farmers, you have the auto industry that had premised their entire, you know, business plan on Canada and Mexico and in a free flow of goods and auto parts. You know, this is not something the president can do unilaterally. Politically, it is going to cause within the Republican Party just an explosion. Republicans are already looking at a tough midterm. More chaos is not going to help the markets, and it's not going to help incumbent Republicans hold their seats, especially think about farmers in the upper Midwest and their trade with Canada. Think about the auto industry. I mean, this is just off the top of my head. This is going to hurt the economy with all three countries, but especially in the United States. And Republicans in Congress, I think, are going to lead the charge in at least quietly undermining this kind of zany effort.
Okay, the other question I've got is the way you think our prime minister should handle this meeting coming up with Trump tomorrow. And again, I just want to be clear, we're not sure whether this is a lengthy meeting. I mean, it is coming, you know, around this publicity event involving the World Cup, so that's going to perhaps set the tone. You know, and everyone's going to be smiling and shaking hands and lots of photos and you know, a lot of backslapping. But I wonder whether you think that there is a way for Mark Carney to figure out how best to handle the president, because the president has been really all over the map when it comes to Canada, you know, whether he is in favor of trying to annex us or whether he likes Mark Carney or not. It often comes down to personal politics for Trump.
Well, it all comes down to personal politics with Trump. So you know, my advice to Prime Minister Carney is to do what other leaders have done when trying to appeal to Trump, appeal to his vanity, compliment him, maybe talk about the wonderful changes to the White House kind of exterior environment. Look, this is how one deals with Trump: is that you congratulate him and you praise him, and that might not be popular with many Canadian voters who have their blood understandably boiling about being called the 51st state. But this is, you know, I think what we see is that in the long-term interest of, you know, Canada's business community, that going in and making nice with Trump is the only way that one can head off, even if you can, a Zelensky-type meeting. I don't necessarily foresee that, but Donald Trump is itching to show American voters that he's fighting for them on the economy. I suspect this might be one avenue in which he thinks he can do that.
Jeffrey Bloodworth joining us with his take, political analyst with Gannon University. Hey, good to see you, Jeffrey, and thanks for your insights as always. Never a dull moment.
Not at all. Thank you very much.